Today I'm talking about Burden of Dreams. This is a documentary by Les Blank about the very troubled, problematic, difficult making of Fitzcarraldo. And if you have not seen Fitzcarraldo, the Herzog classic, I would strongly recommend you watch that first. And if you like Fitzcarraldo, I think you'll probably like the film even better if you watch Burden of Dreams sometime after. I hadn't seen Fitzcarraldo in quite a while, and I still really enjoyed this. So just a little description here. For around 5 years, Herzog desperately tried to complete this ambitious project. And so it's, if you don't remember the film that well, or if it's been a while, or you're just first hearing about this, this is the story of one man's attempt, who ends up being played by Klaus Kinski, to build an opera house very deep in the Amazon jungle. And so what Les Blank did here was he captured how this all went down, how different encounters happen with native tribes and the jungle and the wilderness, how certain things did or didn't work. And it is a really interesting, really fascinating documentary. And I think one of the reasons for that is this isn't just trivia. That's something that I realized very early on in this film. This isn't just trivia. This isn't a series of facts that are presented as a supplement. This film really mirrors in style and tone and so forth the actual film of Fitzcarraldo, and I think it works really well. You get to see how hands-on and involved Herzog was, just climbing from one thing to another, hanging off a ship or whatever it is to try to get his project made. He seems to have an immense respect in this for all of the native peoples that he's working with, despite political challenges coming up between tribes or the government. There's violence that happens. There's some of this. There are times that it's just kind of scary, and I love the way this is filmed, because you'll see one minute you'll get this kind of human drama element, and then this financial drama that's going on, and he's trying to figure out how to get this thing made, and then just the filmmaker sort of freely cuts to shots of animals in the wilderness, and you're constantly reminded of the struggle of the land itself. That never leaves you. And in fact, if you have seen the film and you've seen that ship trying to be dragged across the mountain, the entire production of this documentary feels a little bit like that. And I love how much it actually ends up being a study of native folks working with the crew. In some ways, there are times that it's almost more about that than Klaus Kinski or any of that, and that's pretty cool. I learned a little bit about Jason Robards and his role. Of course, my favorite movie is Once Upon a Time in the West, and what I learned, he's in that film, and what I learned about his role, and Mick Jagger, who I had no idea was involved with the film at one point, how that played out, that was really cool. And it was beyond just, like I said, trivia, just stuff that you would have, stuff you could know that didn't necessarily, impact your thoughts on the film. But learning more about the process makes you appreciate the film. And these two films complement each other in that way. So you're probably more likely to enjoy this documentary because of Fitzcarraldo, and vice versa. And a little bit of Kinski's, I would say, personality comes off in this. It's not as much as I maybe thought. One thing I did like was really hearing from the mind of Herzog and his concern for greater ideals and philosophy. And it's not all over the place. It's not just pointing a camera in front of a director and letting him say smart sounding things, but it feels so authentic and real and cool. And it was 90 some minutes, and I wasn't bored during any of this. A lot of times during documentaries, why I hesitate with them is there's so much of this exposition factor where we're given so much raw information that it can be tough to absorb whatever visual message the film is trying to convey. It's one of the reasons I liked For All Mankind, which I have up there on my shelf somewhere. There's like a narrative that sort of draws you in, even though we're dealing with nonfiction here. And I think that similarly, this works well. To a lesser extent, I think that the Thin Blue Line did that. That one I felt was a little slower in the collection, but I still liked it. But this is just captivating from start to finish. I did not see really anything about Claudia Cardinale, so if you're a little bit, but like if you're interested in her role, you're not going to see a lot there. I didn't really see that as much. It's more about the different ships and how they had to interact with the water and like the environment. And there were 3 ships, and like that's really interesting watching them film with that and learning about the history of the ships used. It's just one of those films that, if you like Fitzcarraldo, really is going to take your attention. So I didn't have a whole lot of deep thoughts beyond that, but I did want to share that for those of you that are interested in the film. This is who I think should buy it. If you like Fitzcarraldo, and that's a film you really enjoy, you like Herzog. You know, I love Nosferatu. This is one of my favorite films ever. So Herzog fans, documentary fans who already buy documentaries in the Criterion collection, it's worth, you know, if that's like something you already like, then you should see Fitzcarraldo to see the documentary, because it's really engaging and really cool. So if you're already into that kind of thing, I think it's going to be for you. It's not going to be for you if you're not into that film. If the idea of that film is not interesting to you, or you didn't really like it, and you didn't really get any kind of joy, or you didn't have the cinematic, wild, starry eyes whenever that ship goes up the mountain or anything like that. If none of that really appeals to you, then the documentary is not going to either, because so much of the joy of this thing is in, overcoming obstacles. And so that's who I think will probably like it, is people in that camp. It's sort of a narrow thing in that way, but I feel like more often than not, folks that like the Criterion collection are drawn to films like Fitzcarraldo, even though my own opinion of the film is that it's a really good film that has some flaws. It's kind of some pacing issues. It is a product, both for good and bad, of the the improvisation of it. But I like it, and I think a lot of folks are drawn to that, who like the Criterion collection, something that's big and artistic and bold, and they really appreciate that kind of vision and that kind of ambition. So overall, Burden of Dreams, very glad to have it in the collection. The 4K, I don't truthfully know if like that 4K looked. I wasn't blown away by the presentation of it, but as far as the quality of the contents they're inside and the film that was made, I really appreciated. Learned some stuff. I remember there were some really cool parts where some folks were like shooting arrows and the others were catching it. All the technical aspects. It was just a neat film. So give it a shot if any of that sounds up your alley. If any of this was helpful today and you want to click the thumbs up button, I'd appreciate it. Tell me your thoughts on Herzog in the comments, your thoughts on Burden of Dreams, Fitzcarraldo, and subscribe if you haven't to Cody in the Cinema.